Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first episode of Impact TV, a Publicis Sapient and Constellation Research joint initiative. Impact TV consists of a 6-episode limited series focused on the impact of technology, including generative AI and its implications on business and people. AI, as we continue to see, is a transformative technology that is reshaping the world and having a profound influence on every aspect of our lives. And in today's episode, we'll explore the depths of generative AI, going beyond its surface and venturing into the complexities that make it such a transformative force for today and the future. And joining me in this discussion are 3 industry experts and my amazing co-host. Ray is the chairman, founder, and principal analyst of Constellation Research. Ray is also the author of 2 amazing books, including the groundbreaking best-selling book on digital transformation and his latest book about digital giants titled Everybody Wants to Rule the World. In addition, Ray is also the author of a popular business strategy and technology blog named A Software Insider's Point of View.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me here. I'm here with Teresa Barreira. She's the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at the leading global digital consultancy called Publicis Sapient. Barreira's creative thinking, coupled with 25 years of global B2B marketing expertise, has enabled her to break the mold of traditional marketing for technology and service companies. But we're here with some amazing guests, and that's where we're going to kick off with. So we're going to do some quick introductions. So Nikhil, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about today?
Hi, I'm Nikhil Krishnan. I'm CTO products at C3 AI and responsible for AI ML at C3. I am dialing in from Redwood City, and we really care about the enterprise applications of AI.
Very, very cool. Ely, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about today?
I'm Ely Greenfield, Chief Technology Officer for Digital Media. We're coming in from our offices down in San Jose, California. And we're talking about how AI ML is affecting the creative process.
Very, very cool. And Sheldon, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about today?
Hey, Sheldon Monteiro. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Publicis Sapient. My role is to help clients get value from the investments that they make in digital, and in this case, specifically value from generative AI. I'm calling in from Chicago.
All right. This is amazing. So, Teresa, what a great group here.
Yes, what a fantastic conversation, huh?
Yeah. So we're looking forward to this amazing conversation. Thank you so much. And we'll start bringing everybody in. So,
Sheldon, welcome. It's great to have this conversation with you today. As you said, you've been at Publicis Sapient for a long time and in the IT service industry. And you have seen it all. You have seen the adoption of many technologies, starting with the web back in the 90s. And here we are again, facing yet another disruption with generative AI. But this time the disruption, I think it is probably more profound than anything we ever seen. And it's going to impact every industry and knowledge worker. In particular, Sheldon, I'd be interested to give your perspective. How do you think generative AI will impact overall the IT service industry, especially workforce transformation? What do you see the changes?
It's a great question, Teresa, and it's just staggering to think about the scale of what we are experiencing right now. So imagine that, 2 years ago, we are having a conversation and we were saying, hey, what if we had access to prolific text generators, image generators, video editors, podcast, audio editors, email reply generators? And you fast forward to today, and it's not just futuristic concepts anymore. These things are readily available, easily approachable, and they hold immense potential to transform the way we work. But I think there's a catch, right? We talk a lot about jobs, and while it's, the current state of AI, I don't think we're going to see entire jobs being replaced, but it's becoming increasingly evident that those people who don't embrace these tools risk being left behind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, our take on this is it's not simply about dabbling with these tools and their usage, but it's about mastering these tools so that, you can do things like crafting effective prompts, interpreting the outputs in ways that are really skillful. And so for professional services, IT services in particular, whether you're involved in strategy, product, experience, engineering, data, the reskilling of each one of these crafts is essential to get the full potential of these tools. So that's kind of the internal transformation of IT services. And then there's the external stuff, because at the same time as IT is disrupting itself, there's this massive potential for transforming the way the world works and the way industry works with these tools. Clients are looking at, what's ahead, not just in terms of efficiency, but in looking at use cases and entire domains within their business where the use of these tools are going to make things possible that were not possible, 6 months or a year ago even. And so you see industries like retail, hospitality. In retail alone, we've got identified something like 150 use cases across a dozen different domains for things like, completely conversational shopping, managing logistics in a far superior manner. We're finally in the travel sector. We have the potential to have a conversation with an AI that performs many of the jobs of a travel agent, and you see all of this innovation. So, in terms of the services industry, I think it's just explosive growth from a client demand standpoint, and also the need to transform internally across every kind of knowledge work that exists in services.
Wow, Sheldon, that makes a lot of sense. And we're actually seeing this pick up everywhere. But this means companies have to be ready. So how are you leading organizational preparedness, to embrace and navigate these changes? Because it's everything from trusting the system. It's, being prepared to know how to actually use the right prompts, right? I mean, it changes the way we look at things. So how are you setting that up?
It's another great question, Ray. So, you remember that scene in Game of Thrones where Littlefinger tells Varys, chaos isn't a pit, chaos is a ladder. That's a little bit of how I look at the situation right now. If you look at what's happening, right, it's true that every different kind of knowledge work, especially things like software engineering, which is a highly structured, predictable field, we are seeing, massive opportunity to improve efficiencies, massive opportunities to change the way in which software is developed, testing is done. The kinds of things you can do with test data generation. This is a rare opportunity to reimagine not just what we do, but how we do it. And so on the one side, we are driving a tremendous amount of effort into enhancing efficiency, enhancing effectiveness. But as I mentioned, this is also about how do we create exponential value with really thinking about new things that we can do with these tools to make a bigger impact, right? So if you look at our capabilities, and within Publicis Sapient, we're organized into 5 capabilities. We call them SPEED, right, which stands for strategy, product, experience, engineering, and data. So in each of these capabilities, we are really leading from the perspective of what changes. How can we use these tools in order to produce dramatically increased efficiency as well as better quality work in a shorter amount of time? And then within each of our industry groups, which are the way in which we go to market, it's about helping clients to seize things that were previously not possible. So in addition to kind of this view of changing ourselves, changing our clients, there are 3 other important dimensions that I look at. So first is we nurture alliances and our partner ecosystem. Adobe here is a big partner of us. So for instance, it's about really understanding where is Adobe going, where is Google going, where is Amazon going, where is Microsoft going, where is Salesforce going in their own journeys with generative AI and what they offer to and what they offer to the market. Where's the open source ecosystem going? So there's this entire thing around alliances and partners, and how do we really develop go-to-markets with our partners. The second is there are certain things that, are just done more efficiently in a studio model. So we've invested in, studios that really deliver things like tailored workshops for clients, hackathons, helping clients to envision what the future of their business is. How will they bring proof of concepts to life really quickly? And offer them things like training programs on prompt engineering or large language model development. And lastly, I would say, and this is not the least, I put it actually right at the top, is we emphasize ethics, which goes beyond, mere compliance. So we are taking it upon ourselves to steer and advise our clients on the responsible and ethical use of how these tools ought to be used, and putting a great deal of thought, quite frankly, into how we are using them internally ourselves.
Sheldon, you mentioned something that actually resonates with me. It's like the people that are not using the tools that might be left behind. One of the messages that I often give my team is I tell them, look, I don't believe AI will replace your job, but the person using AI, they're the ones who are going to be coming for your job. And and I actually deeply believe that. But look, I also think everybody today has an opinion. No matter who you talk to, some people fear it, some get excited and embrace it, and others are sort of in the fence. And you talking to clients, you gave us some good examples, some industries that would be the implications to those industries, some roles as well. But as in your conversations with clients, right, what do you see and what do they see? What are they telling you what the challenge and the opportunities are?
There's quite a bit in there, Teresa. First off, on the notion of jobs, right? And I think this is on everybody's mind. Frankly, it is obvious that that these tools offer a bunch of efficiencies. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we are seeing is just a spike in demand from a transformation standpoint. And this is true with every new technological wave that comes along. Is there is fear of, what about all these jobs that are lost? And I think jobs are transformed and, even more are created. There was this really interesting study that was done by two researchers at MIT on the effects of ChatGPT on the productivity of writers. And what they found in a really, really rigorous analysis of how time was being spent is that actually the use of ChatGPT shrunk the gap between average performers and high performers. So it made the average performers a lot more effective at doing work. And the high performers, got more efficient, but it actually helped with some of the skills gaps. So there are going to be positive effects of these things. Now, to come to your question around clients, look, across the board in every industry, every senior client, every CEO is asking, is this generative AI thing, is it just tech hype? Is it a game-changing opportunity, right? And they are seeking answers about the value that the technology holds, the risks. They want to know if they should act now, and if so, how to begin. So some see it as, the secret weapon, and they want to take on the competition. They're kind of putting themselves in the superhero shoes, looking at AI as, their trusty sidekick, if you will. But not everybody's there, right? Some are not ready to dive headfirst in. Some are looking at what are the possibilities. Let's try a few test cases. Let's gather some intel before we commit substantial investments.
Hey, Sheldon, we only got a few minutes left and we've got to talk about industries and what's happening and what's going to be next. And so I kind of want to ask you real quickly, what's important here? How do you transform industries, right? And how are traditional business models being disrupted, as all this is happening? Where do you see that in about 30 seconds or less?
So look, if your industry leverages knowledge work, which is to say every industry, generative AI is going to play a major role. The past 6 months have shown us the possibilities. You can say goodbye to things like desk research, hello to conversational exploration.
What about research analysts like me? Are we going to go away?
You can create all sorts of content. And if you fast forward a decade, Ray, nearly every knowledge-based profession is going to be transformed, some more than others. But the tasks that rely on grammar and routines are going to be the most the most boost, and there are going to be other tasks that less so. But the thing I'd leave you with is this: technology is never a zero-sum game. It has multiple ripple effects through multiple ripple layers, and we'll be looking at effects like with content being that easy to produce. Are people just going to tune out this deluge of content and push marketing and change the way in which we behave? And so, we have to be thinking about what are those second order effects and really planning for those in advance, right? So we've got to brace ourselves for a future where these AI tools become a catalyst for innovation.
So Sheldon, fear or embrace it?
Embrace it.
All right. You heard it.
Wow. Very, very cool. Well, we're here live with Sheldon Monteiro, the CPO for Publicis Sapient. Thank you so much for being on the show, and really appreciate it. So,
thank you, Sheldon.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. So we might still have jobs, but they're going to be very, very different, and that's going to make it very, very interesting.
I'm actually on the embracing spectrum as well. I actually think that is going to make us more human, and I do believe so. And I think it's make us more creative. Years ago, I read this book. Thank you for being late. And one, it was in that conversation. It was a conversation with a scientist from IBM, and something he said that always stood with me, and I've been telling my kids this since they were very young, that in the age of AI, what is really important is not your IQ. It's not how much information you know, it's the questions you ask. Creativity, it becomes really important. And I really believe that. And I think ChatGPT has taught us that now. So
great point.
I'm positive.
Yeah, knowing how to ask prompt or build prompts is going to be much very interesting. But we got Ely here, and let's see what's going on. So, Ely, welcome.
Thanks, Ray.
So we're seeing a lot of conversation around generative AI. I'm sitting back at Summit, seeing like some really cool stuff that came out of Adobe. So, a question for you is: how's generative AI changing the way we work and interact with technology?
Good question, Ray. The easy obvious answer is dramatically and a little bit catastrophic is not the right word, but significantly and a little bit overwhelming to a lot of us, I think, including me. At its core, I think there's a lot of talk about this technology, especially in our world, in the content creation world, and asking about is this the new creativity? Are machines becoming creative? Will they destroy creativity? And I think the answer there is a qualified no. These machines are not creative. At its core, what this technology is doing is it's a dramatic boost in productivity, and it's significantly improving or reducing the cost of production, which enables and unlocks a lot of creativity in the humans, but I don't generally think of the technology as being creative. What it is doing is it's meaning that, for any given creative work, whether you're a professional or somebody like me, a hobbyist, or somebody who's just trying to get some work done, you have to divide your time when your creative work into a certain amount of creative thinking and a certain amount of productivity. And if you're lucky, the balance of those allows you to iterate on it, because iteration is the key to success here, is working and exploring and finding until you hit on that special piece of content that's going to serve your need. So what generative AI is going to do in this world is shrink down the amount of time that is needed in the production side, and for a lot of people like me, reduce a lot of the barriers to entry on the production side as well. So it will definitely be a huge time saving. What that will do for a lot of people is it will drive up their ability to iterate, and it will free up a lot of time for the creativity side of it, and give them that ability to to steal a cliche, to take 100 shots on goal, and push and work and look and try and share and get feedback and iterate until they get something of real quality. What we will absolutely also see is people for whom they simply just take the opportunity to shrink the time and the budget put towards projects, or to focus on doing more content, and they won't put more creativity in it, or they may even take some of the creativity out, because as we know, these technologies are very good at faking creativity, right, and making us think they're creative. So you'll see a massive increase in productivity. You will see a disruption and a shift in the way that people go about content creation and how they spend their time and their budget on production versus on creativity. And then I think we'll see this bifurcation into two worlds, where you'll see just more content being churned out that maybe is not necessarily higher quality. And you'll see people who invest more in the storytelling, invest more in the message they're trying to give. And what I think, an interesting thing that we may see come out of this a little ways down the line is the public, the consumer, the people who are consuming this content, start to be able to differentiate between those and develop a better sense of understanding whether there's true creativity, whether there's a true story being told, or whether it's a canned story, because we'll see a lot more and more canned stories coming out. And so I think down the line, that may be sort of one of the biggest impacts here, which is a bigger focus on authenticity and on storytelling and on understanding when that's present and when it's machine generated, which, will have a big impact on the industry of content creators. I think for the better, but it's going to be, an interesting ride.
Yeah, and I think that is the challenge, right? To distinguish. And I actually love what you say about iterate, because as a CMO, I always feel that whatever we ever put out in the world, it should never be finished. You should always continue to iterate. And sometimes, especially the creatives, they always want to have something perfect. But I think this allows us, to put something out in the world. And I love what you said, and continue to iterate.
Yes.
But, as a CMO, I think a lot about it, but also as a mother. I'm a mother of 2 teenagers. And I actually got introduced to ChatGPT through my youngest son. When he came home back in December and told me that his classmate got a 98 in his drama class because he created this amazing play, and it was all done with ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I think a lot about it, especially with students in education. What is the concerns? Right? How do you distinguish? What do you know when it's actually original work and it's not? And I know Adobe, you have unveiled some new tools for designers specifically to help to not plagiarize or design offensive materials. Mm-hmm. What steps do you think can be used to encourage responsible AI today? And how do we identify those? What is real and what's original and it's not?
Yep. So great question, Teresa. And I have teenagers myself, so I have the same concerns. And obviously, we spend a lot of time talking to creatives who have a lot of these concerns themselves. Of where is this content coming from? How do they make sure that they maintain ownership and are fairly compensated for their own original creativity, their work, their style? So it's a really big and difficult topic. First and foremost, I think the answer here for everybody across all those domains is education and information, right? So I think the biggest thing we can do, and we're making a big investment in this at Adobe, is making sure that we are surfacing up all the information that people need to be able to understand the provenance of content, where it came from, how it was made, the storytelling, whatever the assertions about it, so that they can then make their own informed decisions. We can't tell you whether something is good or bad, but we can definitely make sure that we, as a community and us as Adobe, as tools and technology providers, that we are transparent about how content is created, about and encourage our customers and users and creators to be the same. And I think as a community, as a society as a whole, that is our job, and that's how we respond to this. Is we focus in on transparency, we focus in on information and on education to our teenagers, to our adults, about understanding and consuming that information and making informed decisions about it. So we've invested for the past few years in the Content Authenticity Initiative, which is an open source, open standard project that we've engaged in. We've got about 1,000 other members in it working with us. And the whole goal there is exactly this, is to make sure that that content carries with it assertions about how it was made, about who made it, in places where people want to have access to that information and where people want to make informed decisions based on access to that information. Yeah. So that is a societal effort we need to do. We can't do it alone in Adobe. We are not doing it alone. It is a big effort. And I think as a society, we need to start demanding answers to those questions. When we look at content, we have to be able to ask, where is this coming from?
Yes.
How can I assess it properly?
Absolutely. That transparency is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think ethical considerations keep popping up, right? When we talk about generative AI, and it's really about what do we do? Like when developing generative AI systems, what have you guys done at the system level? Because it sounds like you guys have given this a lot of deep thought.
Yeah, it's a great question, Ray. And there's obviously, there's a difference between how do we encourage responsible use of the technology versus responsible development of the technology. Because as some of the people out there developing, some of the cutting edge generative AI that's out there, we think that we, along with all of our colleagues in the industry, have a massive responsibility here to take that into account and think about it. The good news is at Adobe, we've been doing AI for over a decade now, and so we've had a lot of time to develop a good, strong set of standards for how we develop and deploy AI. So our focus, we have a whole, essentially a set of AI standards that every feature we develop, every time we develop any sort of foundational model, we put it through an ethical review before we put it out there. And so we look at, again, transparency, accountability, and responsibility. Those are our three sort of principles. And what that means is we ask every time, how are we communicating about this technology? Again, how are we surfacing the information about it? And then what harm and bias, what harm can be done with the technology, either intentional or unintentional? And are we doing everything we can as a provider in taking the right steps to mitigate at least, especially the unintentional harm and bias that people can create? So looking at things like, are we, does the technology reinforce, represent, or combat stereotypes? Does it promote misinformation or help people to promote proper information? So there's a big investment for us to make there, again, as creators of the technology, and we take that responsibility very seriously.
No, it's a great point. There's a large digital giant by accident ingested an LLM from someone else and has been spending about $1 billion to reverse it. I won't name them.
I've heard that story. This stuff is moving so fast, and there's an incredible urgency to move fast and develop the technology and get it into people's hands so that everyone has access to it. When some of these image generation technologies first came out, the creative world, our customers, our community started to freak out and because they thought, okay, now, I don't have access to this, but everybody else does. And so we said, okay, we've got to get this into the hands of creators in a way that they can use in their flows. And it's very easy to make mistakes as you go. It's very easy to accidentally ingest the wrong data, to accidentally miss some issues. And again, I think the thing I didn't mention before as a creator is, in addition to being thoughtful about everything we're doing, I think one of our responsibilities is to keep iterating. Just like we said earlier for content creators, is to make sure that as mistakes are made, we are investing to correct them and to understand as the technology evolves. And continue to invest in both what it can do, but also how it does it.
Ely, you are Adobe. You have embedded and adopted generative AI into all your product development.
Correct.
I'm curious, as a company, are you also embedding and adopting into the way you do your work, not just your product, but how you do your own work internally? We
definitely are. Yeah. I mean, there's like everybody, we are learning as we go, like this, whatever it is, whatever I tell you about how we adopt it, by the time this interview is over, it'll be out of date. We've adopted it in some other way. Right? That's how fast things are moving. But yes, across every one of our functions, everybody inside Adobe is essentially asking the same questions that everybody out there watching is as well, which is, how does this transform my work? How do I take advantage of it and get ahead of it and, figure out how to use it in ways that are going to benefit the work, benefit the company, and benefit me, right? So we're looking, our developers are looking at how we engage with it in our content development technology. Our our coding practices, our creatives are looking at how do we adopt the creative technology in our content creation processes. Our marketers, even our financial people, like in the right proper places. Like we're looking at how do we adopt this everywhere. So, yeah, it's a crazy time.
That's great.
We've got about a minute. Oh my God, time is flying here. Go ahead, Teresa. So
no, go ahead. I was just going to say that's great because everybody wants to know user cases now. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear how you use in your own marketing.
Sure. I don't know whether it's made it into any marketing that's made it out the door yet, but we definitely are using it a lot in the ideation and iteration process. So in the development of content, I know that we're using Firefly in development of content, and it may have made it out the door yet. I can't keep on top of everything at this point. So absolutely in development of briefs and exploring ideas and developing visual content. Firefly, LLMs, all of it is being involved in the content creation process.
20 seconds on Firefly. I know it's not enough, but real quick, I've shown that video on Firefly to at least 100 clients, and they're just like blown away. Talk about Firefly real quick.
Sure. So Firefly is our investment in creative generative AI. We released it about a month ago. The first model we released is a text-to-image model and a text styling model that allows us to use words to generate fantastic images or new styles on your text. It is designed to be commercially safe, trained primarily on our hundreds of millions of licensed Adobe stock images. It's the first of many pieces we'll be investing in. And we'll be integrating deeply into real creative workflows. So you'll see it coming into our tools. You'll see it coming into other surfaces, partners, websites of our own. It's a massive investment we're making and the future, or a big part of the future of content creation.
Ely Greenfield, Chief Technology Officer, Adobe. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Ray. Nice to meet you guys. Nice to talk to you. Take care.
Wow. So much going on here, Teresa. I mean, this field is moving so quickly. This show's going to look really different in like a few episodes.
Totally. It's really, really exciting. And I love to talk about the user cases because that's what we all want to know now.
Yeah, and who else better to talk about this than Nikhil? So Nikhil Krishnan, so the Chief Technology Officer, C3 AI. And let's talk a little bit quickly about where do you see the applications of generative AI to the enterprise? We've talked consumer, we've talked creative, we're talking now the enterprise. So over to you, Nikhil.
Super, thank you, Ray. I think it's an incredibly exciting time about the applications of generative AI to the enterprise. I think these technologies are going to be truly transformative and unlock significant value for very large enterprises around the world. We really see the applications in three buckets or tranches. I think the very first thing that we see organizations embracing and adopting is a new way of information retrieval. So think about, this is much more than search. So think about somebody trying to access the corpus of an enterprise's information and trying to locate and synthesize the data sets that they're responsible for, that they're trying to find to do their jobs on a day-to-day basis. So this is synthesis, this is summarization, this is presentation of information in the right format, in the right charts back to the user at the right time, and then the orchestration of the tool chain so that the user can actually take action. They can actually proactively do their job using a very simple human-computer interface. So I think that's the first tranche. And we're seeing accelerated adoption of that already in the largest companies in the world. The second is integration with applications. And I think you might have heard some of this in the creative space in terms of content creation. But I think various other applications, whether it's a supply chain application or a CRM application, this is going to be the front end. This is going to be the human-computer interaction model for those applications. And then the third tranche are application-specific capabilities. So in the enterprise world, think about, for example, writing a memo within a CRM application, a drafting one, or think about drafting an ESG report in a sustainability application, or an automated response tool that helps you respond to RFPs or RFIs in a more efficient and productive way. So I think they're going to be, or code generation if you're a developer and to accelerate your development work. So I think these are the kinds of application-specific use cases that we're seeing significant traction around.
Wow. Hey, Nikhil, data security and privacy, I think these are major concerns for many companies today, especially when it comes to the usage of AI. How do you see approaching these issues, and what steps do we think we need to take to ensure that our clients' data and our own individual data is protected?
Great question, Teresa. In terms of the enterprise, the concerns are very legitimate, but they're very different from the consumer world. So enterprises have a lot of confidential, private, sensitive data sets that they have experience managing today. And what they want to make sure of often is that the provenance of those data are carefully curated and managed through these generative AI systems. That is, the CEO might have access controls and might be able to see a wide range of data sets, but that frontline technician in the factory, they should only see data around the processes that they are allowed to actually manage and run on a day-to-day basis. So managing data provenance through these models is a critical architectural concern that we have really thought through in the enterprise space, and that's going to be critical. And similarly around privacy as well. Enterprises often use data sets from the external world, and then thinking about how those data sets are actually make their way into AI systems and make their way into models that are used on a day-to-day basis. That's going to be pretty critical as well. But these concerns are slightly different from what you might see in the consumer space or what you might see in the creative space. And a lot of the foundational work, I would say, in the enterprise world already exists around this. As long as the adoption of the LLMs, these foundational models, is not very simplistic or brute force, where you just deploy the model and expect it to work in an enterprise context, as long as there's careful productization of it, I think it can be very well managed.
Yeah, no, those are some great concerns that you're putting up there. Are there other things that large organizations should do as they're approaching these areas? Is it the way they construct models? Is it the way they train people? Are there different approaches along the way where, they look at partnerships and data partnerships in terms of how they share data?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Ray. Look, we've been in the enterprise AI business, as you know, for over a decade now. And for the way we view it is generative AI is just the next evolution of, an AI transformation, around AI applications in the unlocking value in the enterprise. I'd say a couple of things. Number one, the biggest mistake that organizations can make around this space is to approach it technology first, where you end up.
Yeah, good point.
Project. You end up with a whole bunch of people doing things in labs that never make it, most of them will never make the light of day. And even if some of them are successful, scaling them becomes incredibly difficult because there's organizational misalignment, if you will, between what the technologists are doing and the direction that the organization is going in many cases. So we always recommend approaching it business first. So figure out what are the value pools, where is the unlock really going to come from, and let's make investments to actually, no kidding, capture that value. And the easiest way to do that we found is, and both generative AI and traditional AI, is through pilots. So actually, scope a use case and deploy it in a pilot in a subset of the business, right? Not the whole business. Something that's tractable, that's manageable, where you can get value in weeks or maximum months, and get it live and unlocking value in weeks or months. Don't do a proof of concept. Actually do a real production pilot. Get it in production and then scale it across the business, because then you'll get traction, adoption. Then you can work on the change management, and then you can do a whole bunch of other use cases as well. So that's really how, and just stamp that out across the enterprise, use case after use case after use case. And that's how our largest customers have scaled their AI practices, and it's been very practical.
We heard that story at your conference, C3 Transform. It was quite interesting. Sorry, Teresa, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's a fantastic point, because technology is the enabler. That's what it is. And sometimes we forget that. And, it is, you have to think about, what do you want technology to do? What is the business? What is the issue we're trying to solve? And we saw that a lot with digital, right? A lot of companies, they start just doing random acts of digital. None of that was transformative. And do you see now with AI, do you see the same, where everybody's rushing, every company wants to know, how do I use it? And you see the same risk, that we're just using technology for the sake of technology, but it's really not solving a problem.
You're spot on, Teresa. Absolutely. We see a ton of that. We see a ton of excitement, which is really good. But then what we end up seeing is, somebody has tried GPT to do something at home, and they're like, oh, well, I could apply that to my business, and I could do that in the workplace. Or you have technology.
Don't do that.
And then they do it. They actually do it. And there are cases where a lot of very recently in the news where there have been many issues from this kind of if you will, untrammeled access and experimentation, because it can go bad very quickly.
Yes.
Or you can end up with results that, hey, it looks good superficially, but then there's no, I can't believe the number of conversations I've been in the last few weeks where executives have told me, hey, we tried this and we thought initially it was going to work, but we just applied the LLM and then we realized that, it's just not practical because most of the information that the models are giving us is not actionable. Or not real.
We need this warning label says, please do not try this at home. Professional driver, right? Please do not try this at professional prompt engineer.
And I also, sometimes I feel too, is people in this excitement, which is, I think it's great, but they using it, but that really hasn't changed the way they work. They're still doing the same thing. So the technology really hasn't done much. It's like it's a great tool. You're playing with it, but you're still doing the same thing the same old way.
Yeah, absolutely. We really need to think about the workflows, the change management. The business side of this doesn't change in the enterprise world. That's still the same. It's outcome driven, value driven, and managers still need to manage. It's just a new tool for them to unlock significant productivity gains and also get to better effectiveness, get to better get to better content itself.
So, Nikhil, there's that open letter, an open AI letter where all these people sign. People are like, we're going to halt AI. I don't know. Does that work? Does that not work? What is your stance and position on that?
Oh, I think that's just the wrong approach. It's fundamentally not going to work, and it's impractical. It's frankly impractical. There's thousands of people, tens of thousands of people around the world working furiously on this technology, and the technology is out there right now. It's in the wild. I mean, there's going to be innovation. There's going to be development. We can't halt it through a public letter like this. So first of all, it's impractical, and then I also think it's unreasonable. I think it's there's so much development, and so much of it I think is actually very, very practical, very useful. I don't think halting the development of AI is the right call at this point in time. Rather, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a need for regulation, particularly when you look at the consumer space and you look at some of these large platform providers and concerns around privacy or concerns around information security or concerns around disinformation. I mean, those are very legitimate concerns, and there's certainly a reason to regulate or to think about how that would work around consumer platforms. But in the enterprise, I mean, a lot of the core regulation already exists around the ethical use of these technologies and ethical use of data sets, and managers are accountable for their actions. So I actually think that it's wrong to just halt the development of AI. I also don't think that we're at any risk of AI taking over the world anytime soon. So it's not like we have a Terminator situation here on our hands.
So the hallucinations will not be hallucinating us, is what you're saying.
But the genie is definitely out of the bottle.
Absolutely.
He's definitely out of the bottle. We're here with Nikhil Krishnan, Chief Technology Officer of C3 AI. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Thank you, Teresa.
So Teresa, amazing group of people here, amazing conversations. What we've been seeing really is a bunch of use cases, a bunch of ethical considerations. This notion of generative AI is already genie's out of the bottle, as you said, and we're seeing a lot of advancements. So when we think about, what Sheldon was talking about, organizations need to get ready, right? They need to be prepared. And there's a process in this transformation. And I see that, there's going to be a lot of methodology, a lot of approaches so that we get everybody up and able to be successful in their organizations. What we saw with, the conversations with Ely is really this unleashed ability around creativity, right? Creativity is not going to disappear. In fact, we're going to see a lot more of it, and tools are going to help us do that. And that's going to create a whole new set of industries around new jobs. Like, so getting an idea out of the box is going to be easy, but then the question is like, which one do I choose, right? It's going to be one of those things. It wasn't like getting that first, drawing or initial idea onto paper. There are going to be tons of those. And in fact, we can deliver a global capability across the board, right? So you want to do that, and do you want to do like a 50 country launch? Wow, instead of doing that in 6 months, we could probably do that in 6 weeks or less, right? That's the kind of impact. And of course, what Nikhil is talking about on the enterprise side, I mean, this is going to change the way we work, the way we look at forecasts, the way that we think about decisions. That data decisions pipeline is going to be accelerated. And so we're just seeing this amazing change happen. Teresa, your thoughts?
Wow, I thought it was a fantastic conversation. I was really excited by hearing everybody different perspectives, and they all come from taking a different point of view based on their existing roles. I was really excited to talk about creativity. That creativity is going to be enhanced. But frankly, coming out of this conversation, I feel relieved. Ray, your job and my job, we still have it, at least for the near future.
I think there's going to be more jobs created. So I'm an optimist here. And I think there are going to be more exciting jobs instead of the mundane ones that are going to get automated over time. But this has been a wonderful episode, the inaugural episode of Impact TV. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Teresa. And of course, thank you for watching. So bye, everybody.